The effects of the U.S. sanctions on Russia. The Western nations have slapped a series of strict punitive sanctions on Russia in response to its invasion of Ukraine. The penalties were aimed to hit the Russian economy to dissuade it from further aggression in Ukraine. But are these sanctions effective in punishing Russia and its economy, as desired by the Western countries? In this article, we'll discuss how each round of sanctions is affecting the Russian economy. First round of sanctions. The Western countries declared the first round of sanctions soon after Russian President Vladimir Putin announced the start of a military operation in Ukraine. The restrictions involve blocking Russia's Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline project with Germany and blacklisting Russian Vneshekonombank VEB and Pромsvязьbank Public Joint Stock Company PSB and 5 Russian commercial vessels. Impacts. While these sanctions set the tone for what was to come from the U.S. and Western nations, these did not have any significant impact on the Russian economy or its currency, as the Russian markets and the ruble were quite stable. Second round of sanctions. When President Putin ordered his troops to close in on the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, the U.S. and its allies responded with a second round of sanctions. It froze foreign-held assets of the prominent Russian oligarchs, politicians, and officials, including President Putin himself and his foreign minister Sergei Lavrov. Impacts. The measures were intended to punish President Putin and his fellow officials to stop their invasion of Ukraine. However, even these restrictions didn't stop the Russian government from continuing with its aggression. The impact of these punitive actions on the Russian economy, its markets, and its currency are also minimal. Third round of sanctions. With the 2 rounds of sanctions still not yielding results, Russia continued with its assault and the violence escalated across the Ukraine. The Ukrainian president requested stricter sanctions in Russia, prompting the U.S. and its allies to impose the harshest restrictions to date. Around $630 billion of assets belonging to the Central Bank of Russia were confiscated as a result of these sanctions by the U.S., Europe, and G7 countries. Apart from freezing the foreign exchange reserves of the Central Bank of Russia, the coalition of countries also announced that it would cut off some Russian banks from the SWIFT, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, global payment network. The SWIFT network facilitates global payments between banks worldwide, connects around 11,000 banks in 200 countries, and handles billions of financial messages between banks each year. Impacts. Blocking of Russian banks from the SWIFT network. Cutting off Russian banks from the SWIFT network would block the flow of money into and out of Russia. This could paralyze the Russian industrial sector that deals in international trade and limits the ability of Russian companies and individuals to make transactions with the rest of the world. Even the domestic card payment systems such as Visa and MasterCard that use the SWIFT network for transactions could be disrupted due to the sanctions. This can create fear and anxiety in the minds of the general public, who can react with a run on banks. As a reaction to the news, Russian citizens could be seen thronging ATMs in a bid to withdraw their cash before their cards stopped working. As per some media reports, Russian citizens withdrew about 1 trillion rubles in a single day following the announcement of SWIFT-related sanctions. People are seen hoarding daily use and consumable items due to the uncertainty surrounding the economic condition following the sanctions. However, there could be some negative fallouts to the Western countries that impose SWIFT network restrictions on Russian banks. If Russia could circumvent the SWIFT network and develop an alternate system to SWIFT, this could end the hegemony of the dollar as a currency for international trade. Another potential drawback of the SWIFT-related sanctions is that some European countries rely on Russia for their energy needs, for which they need to make periodic payments. Due to this reason, some of the banks that process the payments to these energy companies have been retained on the network. Also, due to the blocking of the SWIFT network for Russian banks, Some European lender banks are unable to get their money back from Russian entities, which could be another negative consequence of the restrictions for the sanctioning countries. Seizing of forex reserves of the Central Bank of Russia. Due to the seizure of forex reserves of the Russian Central Bank, the Russian ruble is plummeting and has lost around 30% of its value against the US dollar. The sanctions will make it difficult for Russia to finance the war, as the US and its allies have debarred Russia from accessing its $630 billion foreign exchange reserves. With the economy in the doldrums and the inflation creeping to around 10% in March of 2022, President Putin is in a tough situation. Though his administration has made some measures, including raising interest rates to 20%, closing its stock market, debarring brokers from executing orders of foreign entities, and other related steps. Conclusion: being the largest oil player, Russia could respond by blocking energy supplies to the European nations. Global commodity and oil prices have been rising since the start of the invasion. It remains to be seen how the war and the sanctions turn up for the Russian and the world economy in the future.